When you think of great films, you might think of their directors.
A24 isn't fantastic though. I mean, they're okay.
Peele. Or actors like Meryl Streep, Viola Davis, Morgan Freeman. But recently, there's a new name in the mix, and it's not a person, but a studio, A24.
Chat, if you click a video and you don't watch 10 seconds of it, the video says you watched it entirely. It's how it works on YouTube.
A24 movies have been nominated for over 50 Oscars and have won 16. They've taken over Halloween and maybe your closet. And the reason why you know their name is part of their strategy. A strategy that's helped take A24 from a tiny distribution company to making some of the biggest and weirdest movies and TV shows of the past 10 years.
Give it back. So I'm getting called.
I've maybe seen more A24 films than the people who work at A24. My name is Nate Jones. I'm a senior writer for Vulture and New York Magazine. Last August, A24, I ranked all of them from worst to best. The company was founded on two sort of basic creative principles. The first was that they were going to give directors almost unprecedented creative freedom. And then to pay for that, because that is creatively risky, they basically decided that they weren't going to be spending money on traditional forms of marketing. They were going to try and use viral marketing and word of mouth, these cheaper ways of gaining attention to their movies. For the first half of their existence, they only bought. They didn't make any of the films.
In other words, A24 was founded as a distribution company. And as your resident film nerd, I have to give you a quick lesson on the movie-making pipeline for this all to make sense. So bear with me for a second. First, there's production, where the movie gets made. Then there's distribution, where a company buys the rights to a finished film and takes on the work of marketing it and making deals to connect it to companies that can show it to audiences. That's the third part, known as exhibition, where companies like movie theaters and streaming services show movies for the general public. The studios you're likely familiar with generally take on both production and distribution. So something like Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny is produced by Disney, and then Disney also makes the trailers, posters, and deals with exhibitors like AMC and Regal to get that movie shown in theaters. But smaller, independently produced films often go to film festivals like Sundance or Tribeca in hopes of getting the attention of a distributor, who will buy the rights to the film and will help them make those connections. In the beginning, A24's sole focus was to find great indie movies and buy the distribution rights for them.
It's just easier that way. You don't need as much money. It takes a lot of cash to produce a film. It doesn't take as much to just buy a film that's already made.
Let's use Spring Breakers, their first hit, as a case study to show how all their strategies come together.
Spring Breakers was the first A24 film I saw. It was the first A24 film most people saw. I think it was a very good introduction to the A24 style.
The film has an extremely strong artistic vision from director Harmony Korine, who A24 courted by making bespoke gun-shaped bongs. The movie had striking visual choices, like this rain that almost looks like blood, and a neon color palette that has become a staple of A24 films. It had a clear hook.
You have these sort of Disney starlets like Selena Gomez, and they're getting up to no good and doing drugs, and if you were a young person who'd grown up on the Disney Channel, suddenly all these people you'd seen in this very squeaky clean entertainment were getting very rough and grimy.
And on top of that, it had supremely memeable sequences.
So James Franco has the first of many A24 scenes that would just become this sort of perfect little tidbit. He has this speech, look at
no shot.
I got
They're naked.
shorts, every fucking color.
No.
It was just this weird sort of thing that really just caught on.
Their innovative online marketing strategy leveraged GIFs and memes to make the movie buzzy, like this one that amassed over 20,000 thumbs up on Facebook, which, doesn't sound like a lot now. But you gotta remember, this was 2013, back when the LA Times was calling likes thumbs up.
You know what? This might sound dumb. This is actually kind of wrong. During that year, it was very common to see things have a million likes on Facebook. It was pretty common. 2013 was massive for Twitter likes. That's how it is.
Anyways, the marketing worked. The movie ended up setting per-screen attendance records.
But I'm pretty sure, yeah. 2013.
As well as clocking the biggest premiere of a movie in limited release that year. The second weekend, everybody talked a lot about how they hated the movie, but their first weekend was incredible.
Yeah, for
It
sure.
was a huge word of mouth hit. If you look at
Hundred
how much
thousands.
money it made compared to other films, it doesn't really stand out. But if you look at how much money it makes compared to other
Millions.
independent films from that era, It was a huge hit.
And crucially, it proved that the A24 method worked. If they could keep curating distinct vibey movies, marketing them online for less money and more virality, and distributing them in a way where the box office can rival the budget, then they were in business. And oh boy, were they in business.
They were able to create such a strong brand. You knew in your head kind of what an A24 film was, and I think that's down to their sense of taste. And I don't know of any other studio
I didn't
that
see any of
has
those.
such an almost like a personal style in that way.
They helped launch careers for Ari Aster, the Daniels, and Robert Eggers, and afforded directorial debuts to Greta Gerwig, Jonah Hill, and Bo Burnham.
They would find these up-and-coming directors and be like, we are going to sort of usher you to the next level.
Ex Machina showed their shrewdness in marketing as they created a Tinder account for Alicia Vikander's lead character, inviting men to watch the movie. And films like Room became big hits at the Oscars.
Wait, what?
In marketing as they created a Tinder account for Alicia Vikander's lead character, inviting men to watch the movie. And films like Room became big hits at the Oscars.
That's
They won their
just
first
odd.
Oscars in 2016.
They won Best Actress for Brie Larson in Room. They won Best Visual Effects for Ex Machina, and they won Best Documentary for Amy. So they had been on the scene, they'd been respected, they'd sort of known how to play the industry game. You know, they weren't too cool for it, they weren't holding their heads above it.
And
It's great
4 years
marketing,
in,
yeah.
After curating a strong brand
If this was used in a different context and whatever, and for a company you don't like or don't agree with, you'd say it's evil and you'd be outraged on Twitter.
off of other people's
You the
movies,
man.
they decided to
Thanks
produce
for
one
the
on
People
their
pick
own.
and choose what is
So Moonlight
quirky
was
and
the
cool and
first
fun,
film that
or what's
they
weird
themselves.
and shouldn't
It was
happen.
a bet.
Depends on if they like them or
They
not.
had made
That's not
only
right.
one other feature, and it 8 years more at this point. And they basically said, like, we will let you do totally whatever you want. We will support you. Visually, it does look a lot
I'm not
like
cranky.
other A24 films. You know, you have that neon, you have that very subjective lighting. Moonlight, that was when they get their reputation, I think, for like, oh, you know, it's not just online hype. They're not just like buzzy. They are going to release some great films. If you look at the films they have produced since Moonlight, it's a lot of the movies we think of as like very A24. Uncut gems. It's everything everywhere all at once. You know, it's these movies that are these big, bold brand statements.
In 2017, they expanded to TV.
When you talk to people who watch Euphoria, a lot of them don't know that it's an A24 series because Euphoria airs on HBO, which is a very strong brand, a very big brand, and that kind of crowds out the A24 of it all. But Beef airs on Netflix, which has a much smaller brand. And, you know, suddenly that allows the A24 of it all to kind of jump out.
And as a cherry on top,
They make merch for themselves, not just for the films. You know, they
Wait.
will sell A24 t-shirts and A24 hoodies with that little logo
Chat,
on it. And
wait,
that sort
I'm
of, you know,
confused.
helps build that sort of
Chat, do you guys agree with that? What you said then? That I feel like Netflix is very recognizable. It's a massive, huge brand.
around this, you know, editorial sensibility that they have. And they employ a lot of the techniques that the fashion industry does do. You know, they will do collaborations with, you know, online ceramics. They will do limited edition drops where you know, you've got to get your hands on something now. They build this sense of exclusivity around it. Where
Like
it
HBO,
becomes,
yeah, now I
there
get it,
are-
but still
there are
though.
A24 merch heads, you know, who are really hoping to
Yeah,
get
I know what he means. I think you just misworded it.
you know, the latest stuff. And it's something that no other indie studio has quite managed to pull off.
when you look at their trajectory in retrospect, it's easy to be dazzled into thinking that they've got the Midas touch. And in some ways they do. But
You know, we don't need to build them up too much. Like any studio, they make bad films too.
you just might not notice it, because A24 puts out a ton of movies every year as compared to other studios, both big and small. In 2022, the studio put out 20 films. That's 2 more
that's
than Paramount, a
bonkers.
studio that's way larger than they are.
But they have a unique way of hiding their bad films and making them go away. They had a deal with DirecTV. They now have a deal with Apple TV where, you know, movies that maybe they don't think are quite past muster, they'll just go straight there. You know, those ones won't play at the Metrograph. Those ones won't be playing at, you know, your cool indie
Interesting.
theater. They will kind of be quietly shuffled off to, you know, DirecTV. Maybe people will find them, but if people don't find them, you know, maybe that's okay too.
Yes, they
You
put
look
more
at
chips
the
on
list
the-
of A24
they put
films,
more
there's
chips on the
dozens
fucking
of
board.
them that you have never heard of, that nobody has ever heard of. The Adderall Diaries, The Kill Team, Revenge of the Green Dragons. These are movies that truly do not exist.
But their missteps don't seem to matter
No, I get it,
much
though.
when their tried
I
and
get it,
true
though.
strategies creates
Massive brand don't want to have any failures. But these guys, they can kind of, I guess, afford to fail. And it's like they put more chips on the table, so they have when they get more chances of hitting, and when it does, it
such
still goes big,
big
right?
wins.
when I talked to the fans last year, you know, some of them readily admitted, oh yeah, like I'm in the cult, I'm deep in the cult. And when I asked them why, the key thing was difference. There's so much these days that feels sort of the same, feels very corporate, very controlled. That was kind of the one thing that they all kind of agreed on, is that like when they go see an A24 film, you know, it might be good, there's a chance it might be terrible, but you know, they know it's going to be just like a little weirder, a little more offbeat. Ideally, it's going to be something they haven't seen before. The name means nothing. The name is, there's no symbolism. The name is an
What does A24 do with their color grading that really makes it the A24 style that I noticed? It's a bit maybe like, it's like washed a little bit. It's washed, yeah. Okay, yeah, I got. Okay, boom, got it.
There's no symbolism. The name is an Italian
Neon.
highway that leads out of Rome, that I think Katz was driving on, and he was like, "Oh, that would be a good name for a company." But it sort of fits, right? Because it's abstract, it's sort of mysterious.
The first comment I saw was
You're
said
like,
washed.
oh, there must be a hidden.
Oh, they mentioned in the
I
I didn't see
like
it.
some of the films, you know, you're like, oh, you know, there must be something there. It sparks your curiosity in a way. And I asked like what,
Like
I
this
asked them
part
what-
right here.
These
Emojis create
You can kind of tell, right?
are a little more offbeat. Ideally, it's going to be something they haven't seen before.
Midsommar, I think, is a good example of that. You really feel that vibe when in it. Nico Blue, we'll watch it. Midsommar is exactly what I meant in like the way they do the color grading.
Real quick, how